Chapter 1 Set a small goal first to escape from Konoha. As a time traveler, Chiba Shiraishi felt that he should have the basic qualities of a time traveler. Keeping calm and integrating into a new world as soon as possible is the most important task at present. Although there are many unscientific things in this world, for example, I saw someone on the street swish like a flea twice, jump to the roof of an 89-meter-high building in 2s and 3s, and could spray flames from his mouth, and summon water invisibly. These fantasy scenes beyond reality have left Shiraishi dumbfounded more than once. What kind of magical world is this? Superman? The key is more than one Superman. In this village named Konoha, there are countless such Supermen. After this, Shiraishi realized that these human beings like Superman are all existences called ninjas. They will use a special energy called chakra, amazing jumping ability, and be able to control all kinds of magical ninjutsu, all of which are inseparable from chakra. After a few days of adaptation, Shiraishi finally understood that he had come to an incredible world. I also have a very detailed understanding of my current identity. I am an orphan in Mue village. I have been growing up in the orphanage of Mue village for the past few years. It was not until after his 6th birthday a while ago that he was detected to have the qualifications to become a ninja. Then he broke away from the orphanage and moved outside to live alone. The time Shiraishi occupied this body happened to be the day he left the orphanage. This made Beishi complain inwardly, "What kind of orphanage is this? He was kicked out when he was only 6 years old? I'm afraid it's not about letting him fend for himself." According to the information provided by the orphanage, his parents died on the battlefield shortly after he was born. It is said that the husband and wife were both under 20 years old when they died. Therefore, for Shiraishi, the hero, the upper echelon of the village still gave him a lot of convenience in life. After Shiraishi became independent from the orphanage, the admission fee for ninja school was free, and a certain amount of maintenance fee was paid every month, including all the inheritance of his parents, which would be inherited by Shiraishi. From this aspect alone, Shiraishi feels that Konoha village still has a bit of human touch. But everything should be considered comprehensively. These days, Beishi has heard some gossip on the streets of Mue village more than once. As a result, he got a very frightening conclusion. As long as they are official ninjas, no matter how old they are, they must go to the battlefield to fight against the enemy according to the arrangement of the upper management of the village. According to some of Shiraishi's knowledge, since it is now the Second Ninja World War, Konoha village throws a large number of children under the age of 10 into the battlefield every year. 10 years old? More under 10? On the battlefield? You can't make a joke like this if you're joking. Needing children under the age of 10 to go to war? It is said that there are 6 or 7-year-old children who graduated from ninja school ahead of schedule because of their excellent aptitude, and were sent directly to the battlefield. Dazed, hesitation immediately occupied Beishi's heart. How tight is the front line in Konoha village, that children under the age of 12 are going to be thrown into the battlefield? Are you crazy? This Konoha village couldn't be a terrorist organization? What I joined was actually a terrorist organization. Thinking of this possibility, Shiraishi looked at the ninja school admission notice in his hand, with a complicated expression in his eyes, and sat on the ground with a somewhat dejected expression. It's over, the one I entered must be a terrorist organization. Once you enter the ninja school, you will not only be taught various terrifying killing techniques, but you will also be brainwashed and become a murder tool for the upper class of the village. Looking at the beautiful village under the sunshine, Beishi actually felt shuddering. Escape? Where did you flee to? The strength shown by those ninjas is only the tip of the iceberg, and they can crush him to death like an ant. Shiraishi doesn't think he can escape from this terrorist organization now. After a violent mental struggle, Beishi decided to take one step at a time, and when the right time came, he had to escape from the village. Konoha 30 years, April. Ninja school. Not long after leaving the orphanage, Shiraishi was going to the ninja school, which was his only way out. Shiraishi also accepted the very dangerous situation at the moment. Mue village is a terrorist organization. Before he has enough strength, he must not startle the enemy and arouse suspicion. One wrong step will attract the suspicion of the people around, be suspected, and then be dealt with secretly. Therefore, Beishi couldn't help feeling wary of the simple and harmless villagers around him. I feel more and more that the kind smiles on the faces of these honest villagers are sly smiles, the smiles of foxes, and the smiles of devils, while I am as innocent and harmless as a rabbit. Each of their faces was full of thoughts of eating him, and their teeth were covered with blood and sin. This is a reasonable analysis of Beishi's current situation. Shiraishi mixed with the crowd into the ninja school. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. Like Shiraishi, some children came alone, and some were accompanied by their parents. The scene was very lively, as if going to a fair. Beishi did not choose to stand by alone silently, exuding an aura that was out of tune with the environment. Such an approach is absolutely stupid. I can't attract attention, I have to be ordinary, and I absolutely can't act out of the crowd. Before officially entering the class, Beishi and other freshmen had to attend the opening ceremony. The venue for the so-called opening ceremony was extremely simple. It was to set aside a piece of land on the playground of the ninja school, and let hundreds of freshmen line up according to height, and face the long-winded and irritable speeches of the adults. The speaker on the stage is a middle-aged man wearing a royal robe, with a spring-like smile that is very convincing. Shiraishi knew that this middle-aged man wearing the imperial robe was the third Hokage Hiruzuru Sarutobi, the current leader of the terrorist organization Konoha village. A terrible man who inherited the will of the first two generations of terrorist organization leaders, the first Hokage and the second generation Hokage. Involuntarily, Shiraishi put an extremely dangerous label on the friendly smiling face of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. The content of Sarutobi Hiruzen's speech seemed very boring to Shiraishi. It's nothing more than a pyramid scheme. What the will of fire is great. Konoha village is bright. All of us are family. Then, from a historical perspective, he explained the great achievements of the previous Hokages, and the hype they touted resonated with everyone present. Except for Shiraishi. But in order not to attract attention, Shiraishi and the rest showed excited and admiring eyes, as if he was really inspired by the achievements of the previous generation of Hokage. This is called political correctness. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. What is the will of fire? After a full 2 hours, Hiruza Sarutobi's opening ceremony speech was finally finished. Shiraishi's legs were sore from standing still, but he patiently wrote down the content of Sarutobi's speech. As a traitor, before betraying, you must not show any dissatisfaction or strangeness. That is to say, what Sarutobi Hiruzaki said is likely to be tested in school. Although the speeches of the third Hokage are cheaper than the chicken soup texts I read in my previous life. After the speech, the students exited in order and returned to their corresponding classes. The teachers will have a meeting. The class assigned by Shiraishi is Class A of the first grade. The entire classroom is arranged in a stepped manner, and the length of each table can accommodate 3 people, that is, 3 people share a table. Shiraishi found his own name in the middle of the second-to-last row by the window in the classroom, and the name Kyenba Shiraishi was written in bold letters. When he found his seat, someone was already sitting on the innermost side by the window. It is a black, long, straight girl who is about the same age as Shiraishi, and is also 5 or 6 years old. Drawing her chin with one hand, she looked at the playground outside the window very quietly, and there was an unapproachable atmosphere surrounding her. "Hello, my name is Chiba Shiraishi, please give me your advice. Try not to attract attention, but also can't be too withdrawn, this is the position Beishi has found for himself." So, when he sat down next to the girl, Shiraishi introduced himself first. The other party turned his head slightly, and took away the hand supporting his chin. On his delicate and lovely face, his expression was slightly indifferent and aloof. His dark pupils released a pure and cold breath like snowflakes, and he was talking to Beishi in a condescending tone, "Uchi Haruri. So cold, black, long, straight, little lowly." After the girl named Uchi Haruri finished speaking, Shiraishi felt that the surrounding temperature dropped a lot. After that, Shiraishi had no idea to talk to Uchi Haruri again. Sitting quietly in his seat, flipping through the textbooks that had been prepared on the desktop. There are quite a few types of teaching materials, including Konoha Ninja Village Chronicle, Naruto quotations, the First Hokage and the Will of Fire. Among them, the book The First Generation of Hokage and the Will of Fire is placed on the top. Beishi read very carefully, because this is an important way to obtain information. Because of the previous 3 generations of Hokage's speech at the opening ceremony, Shiraishi only had a half knowledge of the Will of Fire promoted by Konoha village, and there may be some omissions. Now he wants to in-depth interpretation of what is the so-called Will of Fire. Find out more about whether this so-called ninja school is a brainwashing institution. Although Shiraishi no longer takes chances on this village named Konoha. The opening words of the first Hokage and the Will of Fire, where the leaves dance, the fire is also alive. The fire light will continue to illuminate the village and cause new leaves to sprout. The meaning of this sentence is easy to understand. Young people are the hope of the village in the future, and the older generation should trust the young people and protect them. The sacrifice of the older generation is not worthless, but to encourage the young people to become the pillars who can bear the future of the village. The burning flame of fallen leaves is likened to the heroic sacrifice of the older generation, and the new leaves are likened to the young people. Reincarnation cycle. This is the core essence of the Will of Fire. At first glance, it looks good and reasonable. But thinking of those children who are under 10 years old and will be sent to the battlefield. It seems to be using the sacrifices of young people to illuminate the older generation. Therefore, this will is false and empty. At least Shiraishi thinks so. Why didn't other people in Konoha village notice such an obvious mistake? Beishi continued to read, unaware of the passage of time around him, but as the pages were turned, Shiraishi felt his lips dry, and cold sweat permeated his forehead. The things in this book are devoid of nutrition, and the whole article is full of utopian and dreamy ideas without any value. Is this the will passed down by the god of ninja? Has he ever read a book? What about the guidelines and Will of Fire? What about the ideological platform? What about the detailed scales and standards? Shiraishi felt that the content in the book The First Hokage and the Will of Fire was very dazzling. The whole article is talking about the ideals of the first Hokage, such as family, peace, and protecting children. But there is no specific plan. Moreover, it seems that the protection of children has not been done. Now in Konoha, a large number of children under the age of 10 are being sent to the battlefield to be sacrificed as cannon fodder. Thus, Beishi finally discovered the fact that the words Will of Fire were written on every crooked page of this book. But through the back of the countless Will of Fire, Beishi discovered the content between the words pyramid schemes. Konoha village is a terrorist organization. Ninja school is a MLM brainwashing institution. What's even more frightening is that such a book appeared in the ninja school openly. What does it mean? It means that the upper echelons of the village have brainwashed all the adults in the village, and then it will be the turn of the new generation of children. Unfortunately, Shiraishi himself will be one of the members brainwashed by this so-called Will of Fire. Until a soft voice came from his ear, Beishi woke up like a dream. Well, are you okay? You've been sweating a lot. Is there something wrong? Ah! Shiraishi turned his head and saw a cute girl with the same long black haircut as Uchi Haruri. Compared with Uchi Haruri's frozen face, the other party's pure pupils have obvious soft colors, and she should be the type that is not difficult to get along with. Except her eyes are weird. Is a pure white color without impurities. Cataract? Are you okay? You have a lot of sweat on your face. The other party still cared about Beishi in a gentle voice. Beishi just touched his face, a lot of cold sweat broke out, he shook his head dryly and said, "It's okay, maybe I accidentally drank expired milk last night, and my stomach feels a little uncomfortable." Yet. The other party looked at him suspiciously. "Sorry to worry you. I'm Chiba Shiraishi, how about you? Hinata Ayane, please give me your advice." The other party smiled softly and generously. Shiraishi was also infected by this pure smile, and nodded in relief. Uchiharuri on the other side glanced thoughtfully at the book Shiraishi had just read, and told her intuitively that Shiraishi was sweating coldly because of the book in his hand, and his eyes were obviously dazed and scared. This made Liuli very curious. "It's just a book, is it scary enough? My desk mate is really a strange guy." End of this chapter. Chapter 3 Self-Introduction. After a while, a young male with an ordinary appearance walked in from outside the classroom. As soon as he entered, he glanced at the 40 or so students in the class and nodded with satisfaction. Under the unified gaze of the students, he calmly walked to the front of the podium and introduced himself to the students. "First of all, I would like to congratulate you for passing the test and becoming a student of the ninja school. I am Fujimura Taiga. I will be your class teacher until you graduate. I am 23 years old this year. I am a chunin in the village. My hobbies are walking and writing diaries. My dream is to educate excellent students." Shiraishi knew that it must be a self-introduction link from the beginning. But this is also good, just to collect some information, maybe there will be surprises in the future. The students in front quickly introduced themselves. They have various hobbies and dreams, which is very interesting. But thinking of the unstable future of these children, Beishi sighed in his heart. "But thinking that I am also a kid now, I feel depressed. Before you think about others, make sure you don't die. This abysmal ninja era. If Konoha village, known as the head of the 5 great ninja villages, is like this, will the rest of the villages be any better? And I am in Wei village, with my fixed thinking mode, it is impossible to change anything. The will of fire has been deeply rooted in this village after nearly 30 years of watering and cultivation. The will of fire handed down from the first generation of Hokage must be right? Maybe it was right at the beginning, but the times are always changing with each passing day." Shiraishi really wanted to say something to the Konoha executives. "My lord, times have changed. The will of fire is no longer suitable for this era. It is estimated that after saying this sentence, he will disappear from the world. I'm Hinata Ayane. I don't have anything to dislike for now. My favorite thing is to soak in hot springs. My future dream is to become a great female ninja." The graceful girl, as quiet and beautiful as Yamato Nadeko, stood up beside Shiraishi, and introduced herself to everyone in the class with a smile. After the others applauded enthusiastically, he sat down quietly. It was Shiraishi's turn, and he stood up naturally from his seat. "Hi everyone, I am Chiba Shiraishi, my hobby is reading, and my future dream is to become a doctor." Beishi in his previous life was a senior physician with good ability. He has a wide range of medical knowledge, is familiar with many medical instruments, and has practiced surgery many times, accumulating very rich experience. According to his advanced knowledge, ninjas are also divided into various types, among which is the medical ninja, which has the nature of assisting nurses. If the goal is medical ninjas, Shiraishi is confident that he can stand out in this regard. But in order not to deceive others, it is necessary to behave a little more ordinary than. Moreover, Shiraishi is indeed very curious about the profession of medical ninja. Ninja school also has a special medical ninja training course, but there are very few people who sign up for this course. Compared with the colorful ninjutsu, the process of learning medicine is undoubtedly boring. Generally speaking, during the ninja school, 1 in 10 students learn medical ninjutsu, which is a very high proportion. In fact, during the ninja school, more than 95% of the students had no interest in medical ninjutsu. They are immature, and they still can't understand why there are such boring courses in school. Beishi's introduction was very ordinary, and it was the one that was inconspicuous in the whole class, so it naturally didn't attract too many people's attention. My name is Uchi Haruri. I have no interest in you guys. I don't plan to share my dreams and interests with weak guys. Don't bother me if you have nothing to do, and don't bother me if you have something to do. If you can do this, let's consider you my classmates. Gently fiddled with the hair on the lower ear side, the other side stood up and introduced herself in a cold and arrogant tone, with extremely cold eyes. But because of her very arrogant tone, she directly offended most of the people in the class. What are you doing, talking so arrogantly based on your cuteness? It's really disgusting. Who would play with a misfit like you? You're so passionate. Uchiha guys are really annoying. Immediately there were whispers in the class, all expressing their dissatisfaction and hostility towards Liulai. Humming softly, Liulai sat down with still aloofness. Even if she suddenly became the public enemy of the whole class, it seemed that the other party still planned to do her own way. It feels like a troublesome thing to have such an outstanding desk mate. I hope it doesn't attract attention. Shiraishi scratched his head in distress. 2 months have passed. Beishi gradually accepted the helpless fact that he was in the lair of an extremely dangerous terrorist organization. Fortunately, his heretic not only hid it very well, and no one noticed anything wrong, but also used the convenience of his status in the ninja school to make himself stronger gradually. In addition to some MLM books about the will of fire, the teaching content in the ninja school still has a lot of practical knowledge. Shiraishi has initially mastered shuriken throwing techniques, chakra refining and application, etc. However, in the practical class, Shiraishi did not perform too outstandingly, and only achieved a moderate grade. Therefore, Beishi's popularity with passers-by is still very good, no matter whether it is a male student or a female student in the class, he can chat normally. Although playing some ninja games with these people is naive, but in order not to stand out from the crowd, there is no way to do it, so let's just relax after practicing. But in this way, Shiraishi had to burn the night to read the medical-related books borrowed from the school library. As a doctor in his previous life, Shiraishi understood the importance of this profession too well. Ninjas in this world have supernatural powers, but they are still flesh and blood. If they are flesh and blood, they will get sick and get injured. Medical ninja is definitely not a redundant and useless profession. If you protect yourself as a medical ninja in the future, you can better hide yourself in Mie village and find the right time to escape from here. But before that, he had to rely on the power of Mie village to make himself stronger, and he also had to use Mie village's intelligence network to make himself more deeply aware of the ninja world. So, Shiraishi thinks that he will stay in Konoha village for at least 10 years, and he will not consider leaving Konoha until he has the ability to protect himself. Acquire knowledge at the ninja school during the day, and conduct various training from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Then go home and read medical books until 12 o'clock. Living according to this rhythm is tiring, but being exposed to a mysterious and unknown field also makes Shiraishi feel excited and full of desire to explore. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Practical Lesson The Forest Behind the Ninja School. Shuriken and kunao shot from all directions toward Shiraishi. Facing this terrifying scene with a calm face, Beishi held a handful of kunao in one hand, twisted his body, and the kunao in both hands quickly cut through the air. Only heard the sound of ding ding ding, and the cremation splash of metal collisions. The kunao and shurikens that flew over were all knocked down by Shiraishi and scattered at his feet. Shiraishi exhaled slightly, looking at the densely packed kunao and shurikens around him. His expression remained calm, as if it was a rare and common thing to do so. But in fact, it is very difficult for a ninja who has officially graduated from ninja school to bounce off such a large number of kunao and shurikens without being injured. Shiraishi was able to do this not only because of his hard work, but also because he has excellent motor nerves and dynamic vision beyond the average person. This is the powerful talent of Beishi himself. Moreover, Beishi also used some scientific training methods in his previous life to exercise his motor nerves and dynamic vision to further optimize it. Therefore, Beishi was not surprised that he was able to do this after only 2 months of systematic study. As a senior doctor in his previous life, he had an abnormal understanding of the structure of the human body, and he also knew the importance of the two talents of motor nerves and dynamic vision for a ninja. Powerful dynamic vision allows him to better capture the trajectory of the enemy's movement and attack. Excellent motor nerves allow him to react quickly and gain an advantage in battle. So, even though he already has excellent motor nerves and dynamic vision, Shiraishi still organizes a set of training programs that suit his physical condition, further improves his motor nerves and dynamic vision, and strives to achieve excellence. Beishi is very clear that his greatest advantage is not his real motor nerves and dynamic vision, but the huge knowledge of another world in his mind. This is the foundation of his standing. The power of knowledge is infinite. Knowledge can not only cure spiritual ignorance, strengthen one's heart, and know how not to be dominated by ignorance. Knowledge can also treat physical weakness, and know how to use it more quickly and effectively to become stronger. Put away all the kunao and shurikens on the ground. Although these ninja tools have been damaged, Shiraishi's funds are not particularly abundant. Even a piece of iron must be squeezed out of the last trace of value reasonably and cannot be wasted. After all, it is time for him to grow his body now, and he can't treat himself badly in terms of diet to ensure that his body has enough nutrition. After putting away the ninja tools, Shiraishi did not leave, but wrapped white bandages around his fists and legs, and practiced martial arts against a hard wooden stake. It is now night, and the forest behind the ninja school is quiet, only the slight panting of Shiraishi, and the sound of his body colliding with the stake, and time is slowly passing by. The next morning. Good morning, Ayane. After 2 months of getting along, Shiraishi and his desk mate Hinata Ayane are already very familiar, and the address for her seems casual. Good morning, Shirai-shiken. Compared to Shiraishi's casualness, Ayane, who is a member of the Hyuga clan, has to maintain all kinds of cumbersome etiquette that a big family should have. After getting along these days, Shiraishi also knew that Ayane came from Konoha's wealthy Hyuga clan, and cataract eyes are a traditional characteristic of the Hyuga clan. The ninjas of this family will use a kind of blood successor limit pupil technique called white eyes, and fight with the family's soft fist, which has a great reputation in the ninja world. You too, good morning, Liulai. Going to his seat and sitting down, Shiraishi greeted the other side with a smile. Uchiharuri just glanced at Shiraishi indifferently, without answering, as if admiring herself, watching the playground outside the window as usual. By the way, have you heard, Shirai-shiken? What? Ayane spoke over there, causing Shiraishi to turn his head and look at her suspiciously. It is said that there will be a practical class today. Practical class? Well, it's also a kind of practical class, but it's not the kind of shuriken throwing, but a practical class for two-person competition. Ayane's voice is soft. Well, for me, this is a bit difficult, but for you, Ayane, it shouldn't be a problem. Among the 3 people in Beishi's group, Beishi's grades are the most ordinary and inconspicuous. Only the theory test can be regarded as excellent, and whether it is shuriken throwing or physical strength test, they are all average students. Not a poor student, nor a top student. Of course, this is the result of Shiraishi's intention. In contrast, Uchiharuri, who has an indifferent personality and speaks no more than 3 sentences all day, firmly occupies the first place in the class, and his grades are the first in both theory and practical classes. Ayane was slightly worse, but she was also at the top 5 level in the class. Like Ayane, Ruri is also from the wealthy family of Konoha Uchiha. Possesses a blood succession limit pupil technique called Sharingan. However, the probability of opening Sharingan is lower than that of the Hinata clan, but its power is stronger than that of Bun. Not only that, the ninjas of the Uchiha clan are proficient in shuriken and fire escape. Beiishi also gradually understood these things. Beiishi couldn't help but sigh, as expected of being born in a wealthy family. At the starting line, there is no comparison for ordinary people. Let's work hard together, Shirai Shiken. Ayane encouraged Shiraishi. Okay, if the time comes to team up with Ayane, you must remember to be merciful. Beiishi didn't want to show his true strength, that's why he only got moderate scores in all the previous tests. The position of neither up nor down is just right for Beiishi. Therefore, if Ayane is the opponent, Shiraishi has already considered it. It is the most correct judgment to lose the battle after gritting his teeth for a while. I am just an ordinary person and cannot achieve too impressive results. Of course, if you use all your current strength to fight Ayane, you might be more likely to lose. After all, she is a member of the famous Hyuga clan, and usually there will be elders who will give her extra course tutoring. There is a huge gap between civilians and ninjas of the family system. I just need to maintain the normal standard that civilians should have. That's what I said, but the ending is always unexpected. In the first actual combat class, as Ayane said, homeroom teacher Fujimura Taiga organized the first actual combat test for Class A of the first grade. 2 pairs played against each other. He himself held a notebook and stood outside the circle as if he wanted to record something. The person in the group with Shiraishi was not Ayane, but another table mate, Liulai. As famous as the Hyuga clan, a genius girl from the Uchiha clan of Konoha wealthy family. In the actual combat class, the shurikens used by the students are all made of wood, and the sharp parts have been ground to make the edges and corners smooth. Even if they are hit on the human body, they will only feel pain and will not be life-threatening. It's really boring, even using this kind of toy to compete. The Uchiha girl standing side by side with Shiraishi glanced at the 2 boys of the same age who were fighting in the field with haughty eyes, showing obvious contempt on her face. Well, Liulasan, isn't it good to say that? We are still first-year students. Beiishi hesitated for a moment on his face, and reminded Liulai in a low voice not to provoke public anger. For most students, using regular shuriken and kunao directly at the beginning can easily cause bloodshed. Compared to others, you'd better worry about yourself. I won't be merciful when I play. Beiishi smiled awkwardly, and stopped talking. Time passed quickly, and it was time for Shiraishi to play. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Genius girl Shiraishi and Liulai walked to the arena according to the rules, and prepared wooden shuriken and kunao in the ninja bag in advance. They are all toy weapons with low lethality after grinding off the sharp parts. Beiishi and Liulai stood opposite each other, and first solemnly made a seal of opposition to each other. Start! Homeroom teacher Fujimura Taiga saw the 2 of them taking their seats, and shouted loudly. As soon as Shiraishi finished speaking, before Shiraishi took any action, Liulai, who was standing opposite, quickly took out several wooden shurikens from his ninja bag, pierced the air, and let these shurikens quickly approach Shiraishi's body, and they all flew precisely at his vitals. Beiishi's face was slightly startled, and he rolled sideways. Although he looked embarrassed, he barely escaped Liulai's first round of attack. He was about to stabilize his posture, when Liulai was out of his field of vision. A strong wind came from behind, and Beiishi turned back, only to see the shadow of a leg, the toe of which hit his chest, causing him to fly out. Lost instantly. Oh, I thought I could hold on for a while longer. Liulai is really strong. Beiishi held his chest, stood up from the ground, and looked as if he had exhausted all his strength to get up, and his face suddenly showed bitterness and unwillingness. Liulai didn't respond to Beiishi's disappointed expression, but just glanced at Beiishi's face, then raised her chin, and left the venue proudly, shaking her long black hair. This is a genius. But don't be discouraged, Shiraishi-san, you are the hardest student the teacher has ever seen, and you will definitely become a great ninja in the future. Fujimura Teihi liked students like Shiraishi who listened carefully in class and loved reading. He was afraid that he would be hit because of this rapid defeat in actual combat, so he came up and patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. "I'm fine, Mr. Fujimura." "That's good, go down and have a good rest, don't think too much." Seeing a little loneliness on Shiraishi's face, Fujimura Taiga didn't expose it. In his view, Beiishi worked so hard to improve himself, and the hardships he put in must be inhumane. As a result, he was easily ended in 2 moves in actual combat, which must have dealt him a great blow. But in the face of such an excellent genius as Li Yulai, Fujimura Taiga knew that Shiraishi's ability to persist in 1 move was already very remarkable. In his eyes, Li Yulai's strength is no different from that of the ninja in the village. Beiishi's defeat so quickly was a natural outcome. Time passed bit by bit, and the day passed like this. After a quick dinner, Shiraishi returned to the forest clearing on the mountain behind the school as usual, where he practiced with wooden stakes. Beiishi's speed is very fast. As for the strength of each blow, judging from the degree of collision between the limbs and the stake, the strength of each blow of Beiishi cannot be underestimated. Beiishi has a normal face and steady breathing. While hitting the wooden stake, he is also adjusting the rhythm of his breathing. This can save his energy as much as possible and increase the duration of the battle while ensuring considerable speed and strength. While Beiishi was immersed in this kind of ecstasy of cultivation, there was a sharp sound of piercing the air, and a kunao flew in the air, causing Beiishi to react quickly and jump back to avoid being shot by the kunao that suddenly appeared. Beiishi frowned and looked deep into the woods. It is already after 8 o'clock in the evening, and only the moonlight can vaguely illuminate the dark place in the woods, so that nothing can be seen. A short figure came out from the darkness, with long black hair dancing in the evening wind, with exceptionally bright black pupils, and his sharp gaze swept over, making Beiishi's nerves tense. This girl is Shiraishi's desk mate, Uchi Haruri. Afterwards, Shiraishi scratched his head and said with a relaxed smile on his face, "It's Li Yulai, you, it's so late, what are you doing here?" "To be honest, I'm really not reconciled to being easily defeated by Li Yulai during the day, so I came here." Before finishing speaking, Li Yulai interrupted coldly, "Fight me with all your strength." "Ah? Full strength or something, that's my full strength during the day." Beiishi stammered, as if he didn't quite understand the meaning of Li Yulai's words. "I said, hit me once with all your strength." "Student Li Yulai, what are you talking about?" Seeing Beiishi pushing around and pretending to be crazy, Li Yulai showed a trace of impatience on his cold face. "Take out a kunao, hold it in your hand, and wipe it on Shiraishi's neck without hesitation." Different from the wooden ninja training tool during the day, what Ruri holds in her hand is a murder weapon that can easily cut Shiraishi's throat. The most frightening thing is that Li Yulai attacked very fast, and Beiishi's heart became serious. The speed that Li Yulai showed at this moment was even faster than the speed he used during the day when he was practicing against him. Beiishi didn't dare to be careless, and also held a handful of kunao to block Li Yulai's attack. Sparks sparked between kunao and kunao. 2 pairs of silent, pitch-black pupils pierced the night air, looking at each other, revealing a serious look. "Student Li Yulai, were you planning to kill me just now?" Snort. Still as cold as ever, with long black hair dancing under the moonlight, using the hair as a cover, kunao stabs at Shiraishi's heart from a dangerous angle. Beiishi barely blocked it, and then quickly put a safe distance away from Li Yulai, with an even more serious expression on his face. From the moment just now, Beiishi knew that his speed and strength would never be inferior to Li Yulai, but Li Yulai had richer actual combat experience, and with the difference in actual combat experience, Beiishi knew that his probability of winning was very low. Fortunately, Li Yulai did not choose to continue to attack after a short trial, but gave Beiishi a strange look, and the arrogance on his face also restrained, and asked, "It's so strange, it's obviously very strong, why do you want to hide your strength on purpose?" This question is really not easy to answer, and Shiraishi couldn't find a suitable lie to convince Liulai, so the scene suddenly fell silent. While Beishi was racking his brains on how to get around, he heard Liulai continue to say, "Forget it. Since I know that you are hiding your strength, my goal has been achieved, so let's go here." Leaving this sentence behind, Lolita didn't go back, without dragging his feet. "What a weird girl," Beishi muttered. "She probably wouldn't tell about his hidden strength, right? If that's the case, things will really get troublesome." Thinking of Liulai's inhuman appearance, she shouldn't be the type to meddle in other people's business. Thinking of this, Beishi suddenly felt much relieved. However, a child saw through the truth, and even Fujimura Taiga, the head teacher of the Chunin class, couldn't detect it. Shiraishi really realized one thing: even a child is a ninja after all, and there should be no contempt. You will have to be more careful in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 6: Little Tricks in Class and the Birth of a Queen with a Big Stomach. "Good morning, Liulai," greeted Liulai as usual, but Liulai turned her head to look at him and nodded, which was regarded as a response. Beishi was slightly taken aback. He thought that Liulai would ignore his greetings as before. Being able to respond to his greetings is because his strength has been recognized, right? After all, Liulai said in the initial self-introduction that she doesn't intend to share things with weak guys. That is to say, Liulai only recognizes powerful people, and probably doesn't bother to answer greetings from weak people. It's really a simple and rude code of conduct. "Well, what happened last night, can you?" Shiraishi looked a little embarrassed, and continued to chat with Liulai with a flattering smile. Liulai glanced at Beishi and said, "Understood, I won't tell, and I will keep this secret for you. But on the other hand, if I have a request for cultivation, you are not allowed to postpone it." Beishi breathed a sigh of relief, and said with a smile, "Of course, I am very happy." Soon, Hinata Ayane, the desk mate on the other side, arrived. After greeting Shiraishi, she sat down and communicated with the girl at the front desk. The class bell rang, and the first class today is MLM brainwashing class. This is the so-called Will of Fire spread. Taking out the book The First Hokage and the Will of Fire, Shiraishi felt that this kind of course was pure suffering for him, but he had to pretend to listen hard. Political correctness must be disguised in place. Not long after, Shiraishi felt that someone had poked his right arm with a finger. Shiraishi turned his head and saw Liulai, who was pretending to listen carefully. Afterwards, he lowered his head and saw a note with words written on it, which said, "You hate this kind of course." This sentence. Beishi decisively took out a note, thought for a while, and replied to Liulai with a sentence, "No, I think Mr. Fujimura spoke very well. In the future, I also want to inherit the Will of Fire of the first generation of Naruto and become a great Konoha ninja." Liulai turned her head and gave Beishi a dissatisfied look. She could see right away that Beishi was lying to her. "When you opened the book The First Hokage and the Will of Fire on the first day of school, I saw that your expression was wrong. What are you afraid and worried about?" "I had a stomachache from eating expired bread that day, so I looked bad." To deceive. Remember at the beginning of school, didn't you tell Ayana that your stomach hurts because you drank expired milk? Shiraishi was embarrassed. He doesn't even remember it, but Liulai still remembers it. "It's true, I never tell a lie. You are a man I recognize, and I will keep it a secret for you." The two passed the note back and forth, and Beishi found that chatting with Liulai was much more interesting than listening to this kind of pyramid scheme class. Just then, someone poked his left arm lightly with a finger. Shiraishi turned his head and found that it was Ayane, who, like Liulai, pretended to be listening carefully and handed over a small note. "What are you talking about?" Seems very interested in intervening in the topic between Shiraishi and Liulai. Women's gossip. Beishi paused for thought, tore off a note and replied, "We're talking about the new Ichiraku ramen shop in the village that serves delicious ramen. After receiving it, Ayane wrote another sentence back. Is it a ramen? I also know that although it is new, the ramen there is really good. Shirai Shiken, let's go eat together after school. Okay. Beishi didn't think too much, wrote something on the note and passed it to Liulai. Liulasan, let's go to your ramen shop after school in the afternoon. The ramen there is delicious, and Ayanezan will be there too. Casual. Casual means to agree. Shiraishi nodded. The homeroom teacher Fujimura Taiga, who was seriously lecturing at the podium, looked helplessly at the three of Shiraishi who kept making small movements there. Do you think my head teacher is blind? Then seeing the three of them still happily passing notes and whispering, Fujimura Taiga realized that he had reached the limit of his patience. Hey, you three, don't secretly pass notes in class, just stand outside and listen to the lecture. Don't think that top students can do whatever they want in class. Fujimura Taiga felt that he had to look like a head teacher. The brats this year are too arrogant, they have to show some color. The three of Beishi did not resist anything, and stood outside as punishment. I thought I was doing it very covertly, Mr. Fujimura would not be able to see it, but I didn't expect to be discovered. Ayana smiled helplessly with a fluke mentality. Lu Li said lightly, I thought he wouldn't care about us if he saw it. He is still a chunin in his 20s. Let a chunin of this level teach us ninja knowledge. Now I am deeply worried about the teaching quality of the ninja school. In Liulai's eyes, the three geniuses can do whatever they want in class. This is the unique privilege of being a genius. Shiraishi. Hey, 2 days is enough for you. Do you really think Mr. Fujimura can't hear you outside? It's just that Ayane, who is usually honest and quiet, has a naughty side. Your ramen shop. This is a newly opened ramen shop in Konoha village. Although the business does not seem to be very hot now, Shiraishi was deeply attracted by the delicious ramen here after eating it once. It is only a matter of time before it becomes popular. I'm here for a treat tonight, you can eat whatever you want, as much as you can. After school in the afternoon, he brought Ayane and Liulai to the ramen shop and sat down, Shiraishi said with great pride. Mainly how much can 2 small bean sprouts eat? 3 people can have up to 4 or 5 large bowls of ramen. Beishi still has some money. Liulai didn't finish speaking, but Ayane hesitated for a while and said, well, Mr. Beishi, it's better for us to pay our own. It's okay, Ayane, don't worry about my wallet, I can still afford a few bowls of ramen. Shiraishi smiled indifferently and said. After hearing what Shiraishi said, Ayane couldn't refuse any more. Okay, if the wallet can't support it, please tell me, I will stop it. Shiraishi looked at Ayane with some doubts, not knowing what she meant by this sentence. In short, you just need to eat with your belly open. I will reimburse all the ramen for tonight. After Shiraishi finished speaking, he started ordering and asked the boss to bring up the ramen as soon as possible. The owner of Yul Ramen is a man in his 30s, followed by his son, a handsome young man named Handa. I have to say that the ramen of Yul Ramen is really delicious. Shiraishi ate 2 bowls in one go. Then he looked towards Liulai and found that she only ordered a bowl. After all, girls have a small appetite. Then, Shiraishi looked at Ayane again. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. What is that tall pile? How much did Ayane eat? 1, 4, 7, 9, 13. The number of bowls continues to increase. Beishi felt extremely heartbroken. My wallet. Ayane noticed that Shiraishi and Liulai were looking at her with bewildered eyes, so she blushed a little bit shyly, stopped eating ramen, her voice was inaudible, actually, my appetite is just a little bigger than others. If they hadn't seen the big bowls piled up in front of Ayane, Shiraishi and Liulai would have believed it. It's like this when you're young, but you can't do it when you grow up? Shiraishi couldn't help but worry about Ayane's future husband. If you eat like this every meal every day, most people really can't afford it. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Breaking the law. Since that day, Shiraishi never said that he would invite Ayane to dinner casually. Because that could mean he's broke. This girl eats so much, Chiba Shiraishi, would like to call her the strongest. Time passed slowly like this, and the days passed day by day. Because of the ramen incident, the relationship between the three became much closer to each other. After all, we had a deep friendship of eating ramen together. Beishi's performance in the class is still not so impressive. Compared with the two gifted girls at the same table, his grades can only be described as mediocre. Another month passed in a flash. During this month, Shiraishi and Ayane got closer, but their relationship with Liulai got closer even faster. Of course, it is a very pure friendship. After all, Liulai is the only one who knows that he hides his true strength. If he shows his true strength, he will definitely be ranked among the top 3 in the class. The reason for the closer relationship with Liulai is that Liulai often looks for Shiraishi for physical skill exchanges after school in the afternoon. And this kind of physical skill competition, whether it is Shiraishi or Liulai, both are extremely satisfied with the superb skills of the other party. Although Shiraishi doesn't have much actual combat experience, she can learn from Ruri. Ruri has a special private teacher in the Uchiha family who teaches her fighting skills, and these skills are also passed on to Shiraishi by her, so that Shiraishi can gradually approach her actual combat level and verify each other's growth. Beishi's growth was beyond Liulai's expectation. With the in-depth communication with Beishi, she found that she gradually couldn't suppress Beishi, and she estimated that she would be raped by him and completely crushed by him. This kind of thing is unbearable for Uchiha Ruri, who is a genius. Every week, she would be taught fighting skills by the elite jonin of the family. In just 1 or 2 months, the boys she had been suppressing turned against her. This made her Uchiha genius name cast an indelible stain. Therefore, the initiative must be regained and he should be pushed under the body again. Pick up the prestige of the Uchiha clan. Why is your strength growing so fast? Liulai asked the doubts in her heart. In her opinion, Shiraishi must be hiding some secret to become stronger quickly. Otherwise, it is impossible for a commoner to maintain the same strength growth rate as her without anyone teaching her. Otherwise, the problem is caused by Shiraishi himself. Hey! Beishi was slightly taken aback, and said, I'm just practicing step by step. Impossible, if so, you can't grow so fast. You must be hiding something. I really didn't hide. Yet. Liulai still looked at Shiraishi suspiciously. Well, I have been practicing according to my method. Shiraishi said seriously. He really had nothing to hide. Liulai taught him so many fighting skills, he is very grateful. If not for Liulai, his strength would not have grown so fast. Your method? Liulai discovered the blind spot. Yes, I have a set of scientific exercise programs tailored for myself, which can effectively improve my dynamic vision and neural responsibility. Shiraishi answered honestly. Then show me your scientific plan. Hearing Liulai's request, Beishi did not refuse. It would be another person, he would need to think about it. However, his strength can grow so fast, and it is inseparable from Liulai's assistance to him. Treat people with sincerity, of course Shiraishi can't be stingy. He took out a small notebook from the ninja bag and put it in Liulai's hand. His scientific exercise program is recorded in this notebook. Lu Li opened it and looked at it seriously. The more she looked at it, the weirder her face became. Because it's so commonplace. Most of the exercise methods written by Beishi are not secrets, and most of them are known to Liulai. Except for some strange training methods, Liulai is not clear. Train yourself according to the above, can you really become stronger? A big question mark appeared in Liulai's heart. Beishi knew that Liulai was suspicious, because the physical exercise plan he customized for himself was not difficult in general, but some parts were more difficult to do, but most of them were easy to understand. But Shiraishi knows that this is the most scientific exercise program that fits the human body. But compared to these scientific exercises, Shiraishi feels that the chakra of this world is truly incredible. Why chakra can turn into fire, into lightning, into a storm. This is very interesting. Compared to the magic of chakra, Shiraishi feels that his scientific exercise program is just like pediatrics. This scientific exercise method is just to enhance Beishi's dynamic vision and nerve reflexability, as well as maintain the body's flexibility and certain ability to resist blows. Compared with the magical energy of chakra, it is indeed mediocre. Liulai has this kind of doubt in his heart. Beishi can understand. If I exercise according to the scientific exercise plan above, will I also become stronger as quickly as you? This is what Liulai cares about. It's a bit uncertain, because it is adjusted at any time according to my physical growth. Basically, I have to change a new plan every month. Shiraishi said so. Lu Li nodded in understanding. What suits Shiraishi may not necessarily suit her. So, Liulai took a serious look and said, make a training plan that suits me. She wants to try whether Beishi's method is really effective. Can, just. Shiraishi scratched his head in embarrassment, a little embarrassed to speak. What? You don't want to? Liulai's black and white eyes immediately became dangerous, shining with a fierce light. It's not for this reason, but if you formulate a scientific exercise program suitable for him for other people, you must start from his body. Ahem, to put it simply, it is to proceed from reality and seek truth from facts. Only when you understand the other person's physical condition can you tailor it for you. Beishi's eyes suddenly became unnatural, scanning Liulai's petite body intentionally or unintentionally, and then quickly looked away as if afraid. Really, he is not Doluo, nor does he refine copper. Liulai's indifferent face was suddenly stained with a blush. She understood the hidden meaning of Beishi's words very well. Liulai took a deep breath, and looked at Beishi with cold eyes, as if looking at a dead person. Come and touch. Hey? Good. Hey? No, what did you just say? Touch what? Beishi was dumbfounded. Thought that Liulai would retreat in spite of difficulties, but she didn't expect that she would say that. Hurry up and touch me. If you dare to touch other places casually, you will die. The fierce threat to Shiraishi. Shiraishi felt that he would be killed in the past. Finally, Shiraishi formulated a scientific exercise plan for Liulai. Before Liulai left, he said that if this exercise plan didn't work, it would definitely cause him a real physical death. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The bird in the cage. After that day, Shiraishi felt that his relationship with Liulai had become very strange. Although on the surface there is no difference from usual, when it is time to pass notes in class, I still pass notes, and I still practice as usual at night, but Liulai seems to have changed into the same way as when I first saw her, silent and cold, and rarely speaks. A few days passed like this. Shiraishi went to school as usual that day, but when the first class was about to start, Shiraishi found that Ayane on the left hadn't arrived. Shiraishi finds this very strange. Ayane, as a branch member of the wealthy Hyuga clan, although her status is definitely not as good as that of the main family, she still maintains the code of conduct that a wealthy family should have, and it is impossible to skip classes and be late. Until the first class was about to end, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. It was a girl with straight black hair, waist length. Ayane stood alone at the door, without saying a word, biting her lip, as if she was about to bite her lip. An atmosphere of sadness and despair enveloped her. What's even more strange is that there is a white ribbon tied on Ayane's forehead, which doesn't look ugly, but I always feel that the sudden change is a bit too abrupt. Before this, Ayane would never wear such a sensational ribbon ornament on her forehead. Ms. Fujimura, the homeroom teacher, took a look at Ayane and wanted to reprimand Ayane, but when she noticed the deep despair and sadness in Ayane, she sighed softly, as if she knew something, and said flatly, "Come in, remember not to be late next time." Ayane nodded, and under the weird and puzzled gazes of everyone, she walked to her seat and sat down. "Bye, Shirai Shikin, good morning." Ayane tried her best to greet Shiraishi as usual, but in the end she smiled reluctantly, and the tears in her eyes seemed to flow uncontrollably. Then without waiting for Shiraishi to respond, he buried his head on the table, as if it was a shame to be seen like this, and would be ridiculed and despised by others. And all this happened, and the rest of the students looked at her with strange eyes, whispered, pointed, and seemed to know something. But the students who didn't know the truth were just curious and worried about Ayane. Beishi's face was full of question marks, but he was sensible and didn't ask. Liulai looked past Shiraishi, glanced at Ayane, but didn't speak. "Lu Li, do you know what happened to Ayane?" Because the relationship is further advanced, the suffix of classmate has been cancelled. Pass the note with this question to Liulai. The same wealthy family, Liulai must know something. What else can it be? Of course it is the excellent tradition of the Hyaga clan. The word good was put in quotation marks. Obviously, Liulai's words were full of irony. Hyaga clan's excellent tradition? Shiraishi didn't know what it was, but Ayane's behavior like this must be inseparable from the excellent tradition of the Hyaga clan. What exactly is it? Really couldn't think of any reason why, so Shiraishi gave up. At noon, Shiraishi and Liulai ate bento together. "Hey, Ruri, what is the tradition of the Hyaga clan you're talking about?" Still unable to hold back his curiosity, Shiraishi asked this question. Liulai was silent for a moment, and replied, "This matter is not a secret among ninjas, and the Chunin and Jonin in the village have basically heard about it. The Hyaga clan has had a tradition that is difficult to accept since ancient times. That is the distinction between the main family and the branch family. Is there a problem with the distinction between the main family and the branch family? The branch family must bear the responsibility and obligation to protect the head family. This is also normal." Shiraishi couldn't understand. It is not very fair for those with low protection status and high protection status, but this is a stable social structure. Society is class and hierarchical. Therefore, in Shiraishi's eyes, it is a normal development trend for people from the Hyaga clan to protect those from the Hyaga clan. If it's just like this, it's really not a rare thing. But in order to let the branch family wholeheartedly protect the main family, and in order to prevent the blood of the Hyaga clan from spreading outside, there is a reason to control the branch family. Control. Shiraishi was taken aback. That's right, control, control in the true sense. Liulai glanced at Beishi and said seriously, "For the safety of the Zong family, the Fen family must take the initiative to bear a curse seal called Caged Bird, which means that the Zong family holds the power of life and death of the Fen family. Once the members of the Fen family become unruly, or fail to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities that the Fen family should perform, the Zong family can use the curse seal to instantly execute the Fen family members who have the curse seal. In other words, Ayane's life and death is now in the hands of an outsider. If Ayane becomes dissatisfied and intends to kill someone from the Zong family, the people from the Zong family have the right to beat and scold Ayane, or even execute her." Beishi thought of something and said, "Then, is the location of the curse seal it?" "That's right, the curse mark that was planted was on Ayane's forehead. That's why Ayane used a cloth belt to block it. Whether it's Dai, or the nominal protection of the clan, it is said that it is the existence meaning of the division, and that curse mark is a real slave mark." Beishi was silent. A voice kept telling him that Konoha is a terrorist organization, and it is normal for such things to happen in terrorist organizations. Although he was very repulsive, Shiraishi found that he couldn't do anything. This is the helplessness and compromise called reality. For Ayane, having the mark of slave engraved on her forehead is more cruel than killing her directly. Really, what a terrible era this is. If this kind of thing happens in a dark corner, Shiraishi can reluctantly accept it, but the rules of the Hyuga clan are open to the public. Bringing the other half of his tribe as slaves openly, without any cover-up, what does it mean? Shiraishi looked at Konoha's shadow rock from here, and the 3 Hokage sculptures carved with Konoha symbolized the great achievements of those 3. Especially the first Hokage and the second Hokage brothers, they are known by the world as the people who ended the troubled times of the Warring States period. And after that? The war continues. It is no different from the Warring States period, and children will still be sent to the battlefield. Nothing seems to have changed. The only thing that has changed is that the ninjas have formed a larger village from the ninjas, and the one country, one village system has been established. Beishi suddenly felt that the existence of Yunjian was full of irony. If the so-called family is only at this level, then the tradition of the Hyuga clan is incompatible with Konoha from the very beginning. Ninjas like this should not be allowed to join the Konoha ninja village dominated by the will of fire. The tradition of this family is the best interpretation of denying the will of fire. Can't even love their own clansmen. Can you believe that such a family will have the belief in loving and caring for the whole village? Beishi put a big question mark on this issue. Finally sighed and said nothing. Growing up with Liuli these days, he has almost forgotten that he is a heretic to this village, and he will become a traitor sooner or later. But the peaceful life made him almost forget that he was a traitor, and he couldn't help but want to integrate into this village. Thinking of this, Shiraishi was sweating coldly. Ease leads to corruption. From the very beginning, he didn't have the slightest surrender to Konoha. He is very grateful to Konoha for teaching him the knowledge of ninjas, but it is only for this teaching. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 Self-cultivation of the boss behind the scenes. 1. In the following days, Shiraishi often saw Ayana living alone in the school. Suddenly she had no friends, nor the so-called desire for life, her eyes were empty, like a walking dead. This may be the real attitude of a slave in life. It is estimated that in this lifetime, it is impossible to get out of this shadow. Shiraishi doesn't know what kind of mood a girl who clearly yearns for freedom is defined as a slave by her closest clansmen. But it must be full of despair and pain that ordinary people can't imagine. After that day, Ayana's grades plummeted, and the homeroom teacher Fujimura Taiga didn't say anything about her, and could only give her some trivial comfort and encouragement, so that she could study with peace of mind and don't think about anything. Although he really wants to help his students, the tradition of the Hinata clan will not be changed by a school teacher who is nothing like him. Fujimura Taiga understands this very well, and he also knows that there is no way to solve this kind of thing by asking the third Hokage for help. These giants are like small villages in Wei village. Many regulations of Konoha village do not control their internal affairs. Shiraishi saw it very clearly. The comfort of words is useless to Ayane. Can only enlighten her from another level. Spiritual wounds can only be healed with spiritual medicine. Using pain to torture one's body has always been a good medicine to divert mental numbness. Only by using this physical pain, can Ayana feel that she is truly alive now. I am still a person, not a livestock raised by the family. She didn't understand what the family tradition meant, and she didn't want to figure it out, nor did she want to figure it out. Although those adults kept enlightening her, saying that planting the caged bird curse mark on her body was for her own good and for the sake of the family's inheritance. All her sacrifices are not meaningless, but worthwhile. If this is the case, why don't people from the clan sacrifice themselves? This questioning thought kept popping up in Ayana's mind. The more she thought about it, Ayana felt that her heart was filled with a dark feeling that wanted to destroy everything. Hatred also began to intensify. With such thoughts of hatred and anger, her fair and gentle face also became a little ferocious, with a hint of ferocity added, without the gentleness it used to have. Using the soft fist of the Hyuga clan to attack the wooden post, gradually, during the swing, her soft fist also gradually changed its taste. There was no soft fist at all, but she simply vented directly at the wooden post with her fist, becoming fierce and hard. Even if the fist was bleeding and the pain continued, there was no tendency to stop. Rather, using this pain to divert her mental numbness is exactly what she hopes. After a while, she stopped this self-harming way of venting, and squatted next to the stake, with her hands hugging her knees, her head drooping, her long black hair covering her face, and only a slight sobbing sound could be heard. The sun was setting, and the woods were shrouded in darkness. It's almost dark. The air in the forest has also become a bit cold. Dark green leaves fell on Ayuna's shoulders, and she was still sobbing softly. Suddenly at this moment, the sound of slow footsteps came from the dark woods, which made her stop crying suddenly. So you are hiding here, but this place is really suitable for a person to lick the wound alone. This voice, Ayuna, was very familiar, and she couldn't help raising her head to look at the person coming. That was my desk mate Chiba Shiraishi. A truly ordinary person. Civilian with inconspicuous grades, average student. That's all he is. Although the relationship with him was quite harmonious before, she is not in the mood to deal with an irrelevant outsider like him now. Why are you here? She didn't call out the other party's identity with the gentle title of Bai Shijun as before. On the contrary, her voice became stiff and unfamiliar. Ayuna was puzzled as to why Shiraishi came here, but there was a feeling of being spied on and discovering a secret, which made her very annoyed. There are many reasons, but most of them are drawn to the hatred and anger in your heart. I am actually the same as you. Baishi showed a meaningful smile on his face. Same as me. Ayuna was stunned, not understanding what Shiraishi was talking about. Baishi came out from the darkness, with a slight smile in his steady black eyes. Yet, like you, I am a part of this twisted and unknowingly boring village. Even the insignificant part, commonly known as the humble thing whose destiny is controlled by others. Ayuna choked for breath. Baishi's ordinary image suddenly became another stranger in his mind. It's like getting to know your desk mate again. Is he expressing dissatisfaction and hostility towards the village? Why would he have such an idea? But when Shiraishi said this, Ayuna didn't know why, but her heart was filled with joy like resonance. You are very confused, aren't you? Shiraishi asked again with a smile. Confuse? What are you wondering about? Facing Shiraishi's inexplicable question, Ayuna frowned, and there was a hint of vigilance in her pure white eyes. Do you already feel that you are inferior? As soon as Shiraishi said this, Ayuna's chest was filled with a strong murderous aura. These words have already hurt her personality and self-esteem. All the negative emotions rushed into her heart, causing Ayuna to lose her mind in an instant. Her figure rushed towards Shiraishi quickly, and vigorously shook her fist at Shiraishi's body. Shiraishi smiled slightly. Ayuna, who was dominated by anger and thus lost her composure, her attack has become weak and deceptive, without any rules. There is absolutely no need to be on guard against an attack of this level. Baishi said in his heart. So, catch the fist that Ayuna swung, and then counterattack, pressing her whole body against the tree next to her, preventing her from moving. The situation was reversed in an instant. It may be that the defeat was too sudden, so Ayuna froze immediately. It was completely unexpected that this would be the result. Have you been hiding your strength? Why are you doing this? Turning back to God, Ayuna asked this question. What the heck? But before we get into that, how about we talk about your business? Baishi said in a gentle voice. Humph, what do commoners like you know? Don't laugh so hard. Ayuna said with a voice that wanted to crush Shiraishi's throat. What does this kind of civilian who is nothing know? She was planted with a caged bird, and everything in her life in the future will be dominated and planned by those high-ranking clans. The so-called freedom and dignity have been ruthlessly deprived from now on. Whenever she sees the superior arrogance on the faces of those clans, she has a feeling that she wants to trample that arrogance under her feet. Let them also try. How humiliating and hopeless it is to be played with dignity and freedom. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Self-cultivation of the boss behind the scenes. 2. Indeed, I don't quite understand how painful you are feeling right now. Why do families that love each other divide into clans, and even clans have to enslave the life and death of the clans? What's more unfortunate is that you are one of the enslaved people. Ayana bit her lip, and looked at Shiraishi stubbornly, without fear. Then think about it further. What do you think of this village? The village. To put it simply, do you think the village's current approach is correct? Is the will of fire correct? Are you an idiot? Of course the will of fire is correct, it is the seed of will passed down by the first Hokage-sama. Ayane answered bluntly. For those who grew up in Konoha village, the first Hokage was a very great and amazing ninja. He ended the disputes in the troubled times of the Warring States period and established the system of one country, one village. Konoha can have today's brilliance, and it is inseparable from the outstanding contribution of the original Hokage. Ayana's words made Shiraishi clap and applaud, as if applauding Ayana's answer. Really? That ninja is indeed a remarkable man. But why does the will of fire clearly mention the need to protect young children, but now it wants to send children under the age of 10 to the battlefield? Isn't this very contradictory? Of course. Speaking of this, Ayana couldn't answer. Instead, he was stunned. Although he really wanted to refute, what Shiraishi said didn't seem to be irrational. Because this kind of thing is really happening in Konoha village. Haven't you seen the truth of the matter? Let's change the angle. Try to turn everything inside into equality and the will of fire that loves each other. Why do you continue the tradition of the Hinata family? Could it be that after you are labeled as a slave, will you really love anyone again? See the clan that enslaved you as a family? Then you are really amazing. You should not be humbled into the dust, right? After listening to Shiraishi's will of fire deviant remarks, Ayana's eyes suddenly became complicated. She leaned back on the tree, unable to say anything, and was struggling in her heart. Thinking about it carefully, what Beishi is talking about is not crooked ways, but the truth that is obvious to everyone. That's right, I was imprinted with the caged bird curse by the people of my clan, and I was marked as a slave. What else in the Hyuga clan deserves my deep love? Always promote friendship and mutual assistance, everyone will be a family of the will of fire, and as a result indulge the cruel tradition of the Hyuga clan. Why doesn't Hokage restrict and abolish it? Is the person who separates the family born to be a slave of the clan? Is the life and dignity of the separated family so insignificant? Why would they do this? Treating the tribe as slaves, is that what the so-called family should do? Ayane only sees the cold-blooded and ruthless side of the family at the moment. Ayane also suddenly realized that the will of fire she had learned was so hypocritical and ridiculous. Gradually, even everything in this village made me feel extremely dirty and disgusting. What are you going to do? I don't believe that you, who hide your strength in school, don't have any unknown purpose. Ayana hesitated for a moment, then asked in a low voice. There is a purpose, but it is a bit too much to say that it is unknown. In your eyes, can I still be more hypocritical than the Hyuga clan in Konoha? Shiraishi laughed a bit and said. Ayana's words made him disagree. He is not doing something shameful. He just explained the truth to Ayane, helping her get out of despair and regain her strength. And this kind of truth, Ayana can't refute it, and there is no need to refute it. Because everything Shiraishi said is based on the truth, no matter how you try to cover it up or pour dirty water on it, this is a fact that seems to exist. Shiraishi stepped back and let go of Ayana's body. The steady smile contained an undeniable power, which made Ayana lose her mind immediately. I simply think this village and this world are rather boring. Whether it's the ongoing war outside or the will of fire in the village, to me, it's just a boring thing. Beishi didn't think his posture was very arrogant, he just expressed his true inner thoughts. Although the will of fire is the will created by the ninja god, Shiraishi believes that anyone who has enough understanding of society will dismiss this illusory and empty will. There is nothing commendable about this will. It's not just vague and content, because even those who inherit this will can't fully implement it. This is the greatest tragedy. In the final analysis, it is Shiraishi and the residents of Ninja World who have different understandings of society, the world, and the realm of comprehension, which caused this ideological deviation. So, Ayane, entrust all the hatred and grievances in your heart to me. I will bear this pain with you, because now we are the ones who truly understand the truth of the will of fire. While speaking in a gentle voice, Shiraishi stretched out his palm steadily. Ayane also stretched out her hand involuntarily. In this short moment, she felt that she would be dominated by this boy in front of her in the future. But she has no regrets. She hates her family. Also began to hate this village full of hypocrisy and emptiness. I want to live a more real life, living with flesh and blood. I don't want to be anyone's slave, I want to be happy and live freely. Shiraishi put his other hand on Ayane's face, and gently wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. That's fine, I'll help you wipe away your tears. Remember, always show hatred for the Zong family in your eyes, because the more you hate them, the more assured they will be of you. Well, I see, Shiraishi-kun. Seriously, I didn't expect you to be such a scary person. Ayane stroked her long black hair, showing a sigh-like smile, with a faint blush on her face. Horrible. When Shiraishi heard Ayane's comment, he shook his head and said with a smile, "What are you talking about? I'm not even a ninja now, just an unknown person in the ninja world. You have to remember this, Ayane." Baishi looked up at the moon that had risen in the night sky. The moonlight was gentle and peaceful, and the shining light made the dark woods feel warmer. The moonlight tonight is really beautiful, it seems that tomorrow will be a sunny day. Yes. End of this chapter.